Good afternoon, everyone. This is David Cerns from Haley Marketing, and welcome to today's Lunch with Haley webinar. So today we are tackling a topic that has been a frequently discussed subject on both our webinar series on the Secrets of Staffing Success podcast and in probably everybody's office listening in today's webinar. And of course, that is recruitment and recruitment marketing. It's absolutely no secret that recruiting is a challenge. In fact, you'll see some updated numbers in just a few minutes about how difficult recruiting is. It's no secret that every staffing company has unfilled job orders they'd like to get filled. And it's also no secret that it's getting more expensive and more difficult to get all of your job orders filled. And we're actually seeing for the first time in a long time, staffing companies that are struggling to maintain their top line revenues and their profitability simply because there aren't enough candidates to fill all the open job orders. So what can we do about that? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And on today's webinar, we're going to look at the 4 pillars of recruitment marketing. Now, I want to just first, before we jump into what those pillars are and how you can maximize them, walk backwards in time just a little bit. So we are about to hit a 1-year anniversary of a huge milestone. And this was back last June of 2018, when for the first time ever, there were more job openings in the United States than job seekers. Think about that. So there are more companies with jobs they need to fill than human beings available to fill them. So what does that mean? It's really obvious. Great times for the staffing industry, but it also means great challenges for the staffing industry as you're competing with the end employer, you're competing with other staffing companies, you're competing with a lot of places you may not have had to compete with before to source and, more importantly, maybe today, retain talent. Today's reality is that unemployment as of last month dropped to 3.6%. I don't know the exact number of years that's lowest in, but I think it's something like 20 or 30 years. If you compare it to 2009 when it shot up to the low teens, we're at basically a quarter of what unemployment was a decade ago. We are 1.4% what is considered to be statistical full employment, and that's at the 5% level. So this statistic also refers to all employees. In some of your markets, you're going to find that you may have 2%, 1% unemployment. If you're placing people with college degrees, you easily have under 2% unemployment. If you're in IT, you're in healthcare, you may be sub 1% unemployment. So that's the reality, but that reality comes at a cost, not just to you, but to your clients. And so the average time to fill a job opening, and this data is actually about 6 months old. I didn't have anything more current, but the average time to hire was running about 44 days 6 months ago. What does that mean it is today? It's certainly higher than that. It may be almost 2 full months time to fill a job opening. Now that is a 50% increase over the last 9 years. But if you combine that fact with the next statistic, that the average job vacancy costs the end employer $500 a day. So do a little quick math there. 44 times 500, that's $22,000 cost to have a job opening. So the next time a client tells you your fees are too high, just say, compared to what? It's going to cost you $22,000 to fill this job on your own, not including your recruiter's time, your HR team's time, your hiring manager's time, your job advertising. That's just the cost of the job vacancy. So what we're looking to do here is find ways to help you accelerate time to fill. Lastly, I want to look at one final statistic, is that 86% of qualified candidates are employed and not actively seeking a job. And I did have a question come in. Where's this data come from? And Silas, I will actually have to dig up the original sources. Some of it was from CareerBuilder. Some of it was from a study that I found doing research for this presentation, and I don't remember the exact source. It's actually in the notes of the PowerPoint, so I'll get that to you when we're done. But what we looked at is companies that study the labor market. The first statistic is from the BLS data as of last month. The second two statistics were another study. The last one was the CareerBuilder. So that last statistic is really important because if the majority of people are not actively seeking a job and you're thinking we've got unfilled job orders, so therefore we must need to spend a lot more on job advertising. Well, that's only going to reach 14% of the market, maybe a little bit higher, people who are on the borderline with actively going to job boards and looking for employment. But if you're going to fill all of those open orders you have today, you're going to need different strategies to get at the semi-active and the truly passive job candidates, the people who are working for your competitors, the people who are working in jobs where they're underemployed and willing to look at new opportunities, the people who are working for bosses they don't love and would like to find a better company to work for. Those are the people who are going to be the secret of your success in the coming weeks and months. So what can you do to deal with the reality of the market? Well, some people are just upset and not sure what to do. They may cry about it. Some people are turning to prayer, which is always a good thing to do, but really probably not going to solve the problem. But what I'm seeing most often is the spend obscene sums of money. You know the job boards all raised their rates this year, some dramatically so. You know they've changed their policies, so just doing what you did last year will cost a lot more this year. And you're being told every time you tell your sales representative from the job board that, hey, the secret to getting more candidates is spend more money. That may make sense, but you may get to a point of diminishing returns where the 14% of active job seekers you're trying to reach, no matter how much money you spend, you're not going to get more of them. If you're in a rural community, everybody may know about your jobs already. So spending obscene sums of money on recruiting doesn't make sense. Instead, what we want to look at is recruitment marketing. And that goes way beyond job advertising. What we're going to talk about today are the definitions of recruitment marketing and, as we've defined it, the 4 pillars of your marketing program. So what is recruitment marketing? Well, when you're trying to get a definition of something, you turn to the experts. This time we put the source in the presentation, so we went to Wikipedia. And Wikipedia, if you look it up, will define recruitment marketing as the strategies and tactics an organization uses to find, attract, engage, and nurture talent before they apply for a job. So how do we source people, the finding? How do we attract them to pull them into our job openings? How do we engage them so that they're interested in speaking to us and they don't no-show when they sign up for the interview? And how do we nurture them so if we don't have the exact right job opening today, or maybe we're proactively recruiting for tomorrow's client needs, how do we nurture these people to stay top of mind, to build trust, to make them want to work for our organization? That's what recruitment marketing is all about. Now, we simplified the definition. So at Haley Marketing, to us, recruitment marketing is everything that goes in getting a job candidate to click the apply button on your website or wherever your job is posted. How do we get them to want to click and apply to the job? Because a lot of people are going to see your jobs and never click apply. A lot of people are actually going to start, they may even click apply and never click the submit button to send their application to you. And we have to look at ways to get more conversions, more people finding you, taking action, finishing the apply, coming in for the interview, and then being placed on assignment. So quick history lesson. This is not going to be new to anybody on the webinar. You know, in the olden days, like when I started in the staffing industry a bazillion years ago, you know, advertising was a combination of word of mouth. You still see people putting out signs. I get a kick out of this when I was driving down a main boulevard here where I am in Buffalo, New York, and somebody needed to hire a mechanic. It was an auto repair station. They just put a sign in front of the road. I'm not sure how many mechanics drove by, Don't think that was a great strategy. But of course, the thing that the industry grew up on was classified advertising, something almost nobody does anymore. But classified advertising, I wanted to go back to this history lesson because there's something that happened that was very important when classified advertising was big 20, 25 years ago. And the thing that was very important is our recruiters were trained to be pretty good copywriters. They had to figure out a way to make an advertisement jump out when it was in a sea of other job ads in the classified section. They had to figure out how to convey the value of the job in as few column inches as possible. And for those of you who wonder what the heck I'm talking about, back in the ancient days when we bought paper-based classified advertising, you bought it by the inch. So how many inches of text? And so if I wanted to maximize my recruiting spend, my job advertising spend, I wanted to advertise as many jobs as I could in as few inches as possible. So recruiters got really good at abbreviating, at getting to the point. But then something happened. Along came our friends at the job boards. And when they came along, they totally changed the rules. They said, look, why are you fighting over column inches? We're going to give you unlimited real estate. We're going to allow you to write as much detail as you want about the job. We're going to help you attract the job seeker. And Monster and Career Builder did tremendous things to change our industry and how we advertise jobs. The strength of what they did is they gave us the freedom to say as much as we want about the job. The negative of what they did is they made us get lazy. So now instead of really thinking about and straining over every word to make sure it was vitally relevant to the job seeker, we could write as much as we want. And so we started taking the full job description that we took, the job order or the description HR sent over, and dumping it in and calling it a job post. And if you look today, fast forward from the mid-90s when Monster and Career Builder launched to 2019 and look at job ads. They're either really short, there's nothing about them in detail, or they're really long, basically online job descriptions. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but what we've been trained to do over 20 years is actually far from being a best practice when it comes to sourcing talent. And then, of course, came Indeed and ZipRecruiter, and they changed the game again. So instead of being a job site that you just posted jobs to, these companies said, we'll aggregate jobs, so we'll make a better experience for the job seeker by pulling all the jobs into one place. And Indeed said, we will win this game by dominating search engines. So anytime a candidate searches for a job, they will find it on Indeed, and they've clearly been the winner. Then ZipRecruiter said, well, we're going to do something similar, but we're going to focus on the small to mid-sized business and the candidate for that business, and we're going to build brand recognition through a massive amount of advertising and being everywhere that people go. And these companies ate the lunch of Monster and Career Builder to a large extent, took over how job advertising gets done. But if we now have to think about, well, how do we work with these companies most effectively? But then it didn't stop there. Of course, then social media joined the scene, and all of a sudden now LinkedIn and Facebook said, hey, we want your job advertising too. And Facebook is in the process right now of building out integrations with ATSs. I'm really excited because they just contacted us yesterday about integrating our job board software directly with Facebook. So fingers crossed that they'll approve us for their process. But what's happening now is there's so many places you can put jobs. It's no longer just put them in the newspaper on Sunday. Now it's, do I pick the national board? Do I pick a niche board? Do I pick a local board? Do I use social media? Where do I put the job? Where are my candidates going to be? In 2019, the decision about where to where to advertise your jobs has gotten immensely complicated. And knowing what's going to work for your company is incredibly difficult. It's also very easy to go to the other extreme saying, oh, we'll just spend money everywhere. And all of a sudden, we're not getting a very good return on that investment because we're increasing our spend without increasing our results. So today, all that stuff is just not enough. If you want to win the war for talent, it's not just about job advertising anymore. We can't just put our jobs out there. With 3.6% unemployment, we have to be thinking about better strategies. We need to think smarter. So when you talk about thinking smarter, I want to talk about 5 strategies for talent acquisition. We're not going to go through these in detail today. When I give you all 5, I'll then give you a link to another webinar that actually does a full hour on these 5 strategies. But I want everybody, as we're doing the 4 pillars today, to also be thinking about how do they impact each of these strategies. So strategy number 1 is improve my reach. I need to get in front of more of the people who are my ideal job candidates. I need to expand the range of people I would want to recruit. So, when there's 10% unemployment and I'm trying to find the A+ candidate, I'm not going to settle. I'm going to go for somebody who dots every I, crosses every T on the requirements that I have. But today, that candidates may not exist. So I need to think about how can I expand my talent pool? Who are people that would have transferable skills? Where else can I look for individuals? I know ASA has been big on a second chance program, looking at people who are being rehabilitated from the prison system and saying how there are a lot of people who may have been in jail for very minor crimes and are now struggling to get back into the workforce. Can our industry help them? But you want to think about not just prisoners, but where else can I find talent? Can I find talent just entering the marketplace? Can I find talent at people at the end of their careers who need to continue working? Can I find talent in other industries and other skill disciplines than I normally think about recruiting from? Then improving conversion. We are going to talk about this in a little bit of detail today, but the majority of candidates who come to your website never apply for a job, never contact you. So we need to get more people who see your job ads, who visit your website, who speak to your recruiters. We need to get more of those people converted into placed candidates. Then we're going to look at the third strategy is stealing talent. Not quite literally, but how do you win the A+, the A, the B+, the B, maybe even the C+ candidate away from the competition? How do you make your staffing company the employer of choice for the most reliable, hardest working, intelligent, qualified employees in your marketplace? How do you market to the people who are working for a competitor to win them to your organization? How do you provide a service process so you get more referrals from those people? How do you protect your company so your competitors can't do the same things to you? So a big strategy today in talent acquisition is take people who are already working as a temp for somebody else and give them a powerful reason to want to come work for you. The next is to deepen your recruiting depth. Now, an obvious answer is, hey, hire more recruiters. But there are other ways to deepen recruiting depth. And if you think about the number one highest quality source of talent, it's a referral. So how can you deepen your recruiting depth in terms of getting more referrals, getting referrals from your current placed associates, getting referrals from people in your ATS you've interviewed in the past or you've placed in the past, getting referrals from your alumni network, people you have worked with and have put on assignment or put into full-time jobs, getting referrals from influencers in your community, whether they're civic groups, social groups, professional groups, religious groups, anywhere talent might aggregate, even getting referrals from your clients. How can you build the depth of resources so that everywhere in your community, everywhere in your industry, people are finding the opportunities that you represent? And lastly, how can you improve retention? There's another industry vendor that I saw do a presentation about retention and redeployment of temporary associates in the industry. And the data they were quoting said redeployment rates range from 10 to 30% and average about 16%. So what does that mean? Out of every 100 candidates that you put on assignment, 84 don't go on the next assignment with you. You spent tens of thousands of dollars on job advertising to bring people in, an incredible asset that produces revenue for your organization, that produces commission for salespeople and recruiters, and then at the end of the assignment, 84% of them are gone. So what can you do to keep people working for you, keep people happy being employed by your organization? So those are the 5 core strategies for talent acquisition. I mentioned there's a whole nother hour on this. So if you go to our lunchwithhaley.com website, you go to the webinars on demand and you search for recruiting insights and innovations, there's an hour just on these 5 strategies and lots of great tips to help you get into more depth than I did in the 3 minutes we went through this slide today. All right, now let's transition. Now it's time to talk about those 4 pillars of recruitment marketing. And again, we're thinking about everything we can do to get someone to click the apply button. Everything we can do to attract them, to find them, to attract them, to nurture them, to engage them so that they will apply to your jobs. And those 4 pillars are: number 1, your career site. Now, in the staffing world, this means your entire website. Any page on your website that a candidate's going to find and engage with, are we doing things to maximize response? Number 2, job advertising and distribution. I've talked a bunch about job advertising already and giving you our brief history lesson of recruitment ads. But there are new techniques for advertising and certainly new techniques for distribution to help you wade through all of the different places you can put jobs to really determine what works for our company, what works in our geographic market, what gets us the lowest cost per candidate, or what gets us the highest quality talent. We'll talk about that in just a minute. The third pillar is social recruiting. And I'm sure everybody who's listening to the webinar today, you have some sort of social media game plan. It may be a really well thought out strategy. It may just be we have people in the office sharing from time to time, or it may be, we have the intern we've brought in who's helping with social media because they're really good with the social networks. But we're going to think today about how to use social media more strategically to recruit the kinds of candidates that you're looking to place. And lastly, it's your employment brand. The last pillar is one that's often overlooked in the industry, which is, what is the brand our company represents? Why do people want to work for us? And we'll wrap up today's webinar going through a couple of the important things that you want to think about and you want to do to bring your brand to life and make sure people in your community, in your industry, understand what you're all about as an employer. Okay, so let's go through these pillars one at a time. Number 1 is your career site. So your career site, as I mentioned, if you're a staffing company, career site equals website. If you're a direct employer, the career site might be a page on your corporate website, or you may have a standalone career website where you are promoting your culture and your jobs and the opportunity to be part of your organization. Almost every staffing website has an area for employers and an area for job seekers, and somewhere on there the jobs as well. But what I don't see enough of in career sites is content. And when we get to employer branding at the end, I want you to think back to career site, but content that really sells the job seeker on why work for you. The biggest problem with most staffing websites is that you lose candidates who don't take any sort of action. So how can we mitigate the loss of candidate traffic? Well, first, I want to have great jobs on the website. And what do great jobs mean? It means jobs that people would really want to apply to. So I saw a company advertising a job on Facebook. This wasn't on their website, but they were advertising it as if it was a great job, and it had a very low pay rate associated with it. Now they need to fill that job with the low pay rate, but that probably shouldn't be one that they're featuring on social media. They should be focusing on advertising the great jobs. And on your website, you want to make sure those great jobs stand out. You want to make sure if you're working with companies that are really well known, try to use the fact that you're working with them. And I know that's really controversial because a lot of you don't want the competitors to know who you're working with because the competitors are going to call on those clients. Guess what? The competitors are already calling on those clients. And if having a marquee client is an attractor of great talent, you absolutely want to leverage that on your website. Here's the clients we work with. Let's say you don't have that many great jobs. Then you need to get back out with your clients and say, here's the jobs you've given us. Here's the jobs your competitors for talent have given us. Look at their jobs are better than yours. I can't make a candidate go to a bad job. So what can we do to make your jobs more desirable? What can we do to increase pay rates, the benefits, how people are treated, opportunity for advancement, training? Whatever it is your clients can provide, you have to help them optimize every individual job. And this is the recruiter's responsibility, is to work with the client to make the job as saleable as possible, which translates into writing great job posts. It's not enough just to have a great job. You have to do a great job describing it. A job post is not just a job description, it's a job advertisement. And in advertising, we think of headlines that capture attention. We think of focusing on benefits before we talk about features. We think about calls to action, what we want people to do. And a great job post has a terrific headline, a job title people are searching for, and then probably a little bit in that job title to make it stand out from everybody else who has the same job title. Even if your client gives you some off-the-wall job title like we're looking for an SEO guru, no, you don't want to use the weird job title. You want to use the words people would be searching for, whether they're on Google or in Indeed or ZipRecruiter. Then I want to start the post with some really big selling features. Why should the candidate work for you? And I want to have maybe an opening sentence and then a few bullets of why this is an amazing opportunity. Then you'll get to the requirements and the duties and the responsibilities and the stuff that allows the candidate to say this job is or is not for me. But we have to open up by selling the opportunity. The jobs themselves have to be really easy to find on your website. Don't make people go through click after click after click to find a job. Make it super easy. There should be either a listing of jobs or a search feature right on the homepage of your website. There should be an easy way to find the search jobs either in the main navigation or right under job seekers. I want to, everywhere on the website that a candidate might come into the site, make it easy for them to then get to searching the jobs, because every candidate doesn't just come in at the home page. They may come in on a locations page. They may come in on a blog post. They may come in from a link to your job seekers page. When they come in on every single page, they call those entry pages. You want to look to see, have I made it easy for the job seeker to get to the jobs? Have I sold them on taking the next step? We want to make sure the jobs themselves are super easy to search so I can find the jobs that are most relevant to me. So can I search by keyword, by geographic location, by industry, by geographic radius, by an employment type? I saw a company that had a really nice search feature on their website that was by keyword and location, but there were no drop downs. So the candidate had to know, particularly on location, what locations to type in. And that was going to be a match for an exact name of a town or a city. How was the candidate going to know that? I saw another company that had a list of choose your job category, but there was no drop down. How do I know what job categories you have? You need to make it easy for the candidate to find the jobs that are relevant by having drop down information, by having fields that allow them to drill into jobs that are the right fit for them. Because if they start seeing all your jobs and they don't see jobs that are the right fit quickly, they're just going to get frustrated and give up, and then they'll go somewhere else to search for jobs. And most importantly, you have to make it easy to apply. You want to give people lots of different ways to apply. And now on screen, you see a picture that's we set up for just for this webinar. It's sort of a ridiculous extreme on our website. When we set it up, this picture, if you clicked apply now, it would open up a list of ways to apply. And we don't recommend that somebody has every single item on the list here, but there should be more than just fill out an online form, because if I'm on a phone, that might not be feasible. Apply with Indeed's a great one, because I can use my data that's in Indeed to apply for the job, or apply with Monster. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, and Instagram. There is some publicly available information that can be grabbed from any of those sites that helps to fill in the candidate's name, email address, their physical address, their phone number. What you're doing here is you're shortening the process of getting the information the candidate needs to tell you I'm interested in the job. And the more fields you ask somebody to complete, like everything over 3 fields, reduces response. Now, if you're getting a ton of response and the response isn't qualified, then you add more fields to your form. But if you're not getting enough response, go look at your form. Go see what can we cut out, what's not absolutely essential. And the goal of your application form, step 1, is to get the contact's information so that if you didn't get anything else, you could follow up with the candidate. Step 2 is to get enough information to qualify the candidate. We don't have to do step 2 at the same time as step 1. They may be done sequentially, they may be done in a follow-up email, but I'm seeing a lot of staffing companies where you're using the application form provided by your ATS. It's a long form with a lot of data to fill in. The absolute worst ones actually ask the candidate for social security number or last 4 digits of their social. How many people even know that off the top of their head? And if the candidate can't fill in screen 1 of your apply process, they're gone. So you want to go and see, how can we simplify apply to make it as fast and easy as possible for the candidate? Because right now in today's economy, you're trying to maximize response. When they get to the form itself, again, this is an example. Very few fields to fill in. This example shows you first name, last name, email address, and phone. They can upload a resume if they want. They can upload it from Dropbox or Google Drive if they've got it there. They don't have to add a cover letter, they can. And then they can also, at the same time, opt in for ongoing communication via email or text. But this form here is incredibly short, easy to fill in, and this is if somebody didn't use the one-click apply option, but even on a phone, a candidate could give you enough information so that you could follow up to go to the next step. The website itself has to be optimized. And what do we mean by optimized? Every job should be its own web page so that Google can see every job that you represent. Very often, you may have a job board that's in what's called an iframe, meaning all the jobs are in a page on your website that is sort of like a window, and the jobs are inside that window. Unfortunately, Google only sees the window frame and never sees the jobs inside the window. So unless you have unique job pages that are on your site, you're really negatively impacting your SEO, your search engine optimization. The jobs themselves need to be on your company's domain, the URL of your website. They shouldn't be on somebody else's domain. That helps somebody else's SEO, not yours. So that's, if you look at the address bar where that arrow just popped up, it should show you that they're on your domain. This is our website, a job we had open a little while ago, and it shows on jobs.haleymarketing.com. You should be doing on-page SEO, things like having the job title in the actual URL of the page, having it in the page title or the little bar you see across the top, it should be there, using headlines that have the job title in it, and then having internal links that promote jobs. So these are all the things that an SEO professional would do to optimize an individual web page. You want your website that every time you post a job, all this on-page stuff just happens automatically. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to do any special coding. You just enter your job, or the job just comes right out of your ATS into the job board on your website, and all the on-page SEO is done for you. And so the arrows here, just so a couple of examples of where that on-page SEO comes into play. And then lastly is Google for Jobs. As probably everybody is very well aware, but I think about almost 2 years ago, Google got into the job search game big time. They said, you know, Indeed may be saying they're Google for Jobs, but we're Google and we're Google for Jobs. So we're going to index every job so that a job seeker who goes to Google first will then see that blue box that you're familiar with. That's the Google for Jobs search results, where they can find jobs that match exactly what they were looking for. Now, the way Google for Jobs works is that you do a lot of coding behind the scenes. So the picture that just popped up on the screen, on the left side, it shows the actual HTML code of a web page. The right side shows the information Google knows about the job. And it gets that information from something called structured data, or markup text. So the structured data, if you want to see whether or not your website does this, you can go grab the URL of an individual job. You can go search for Google's structured data testing tool, and it'll bring up that box you see at the top of the screen. You paste your URL in there and you run the test. The window at the bottom shows you what Google brings back, and if there's no Google for Jobs markup, the right side will be blank. If there is Google for Jobs markup, it will show you everything Google knows, and it will show you if there are any errors in your markup and if there's any warnings. There'll be warnings if there's data that Google wants that you didn't include. And in staffing, very often there are warnings for two things. Number one, salary. A lot of staffing jobs don't include salary information, and Google really wants that. Job seekers really want it too. About 40% more applications will come in when you have salary associated with the job. Even if it's not great, it's better to have it than not have it. So Google will give you a warning if that's not there. And the other is the physical job location. Google wants to know where your clients are, where those jobs are, because people can do a search saying, I'm looking for a job that's so many minutes from my house. I'm looking for a job that's on a bus route. Google knows that stuff, but it needs to know where the job is to tell that. Now, I would say the majority of staffing companies don't include that information in their Google for Jobs markup. If you want a little differentiator in getting your jobs on Google, include it, or make sure it's turned on. In our software, you're seeing all the examples are from our software. Our job board software, It's a setting. We can turn it on or turn it off. If you don't want it, we turn it off. But we recommend turning it on. It actually, the location doesn't visibly display on the job. It's only in that structured data in the HTML code. So Google knows where your jobs are, and Google can give your candidates a better location for their search based on where they are located when they're doing the search, or criteria like that. I'm looking for a job on a bus route. But it's not just about jobs on your website. Your website really needs to answer the question, why should someone work for you? And this is where your website crosses over to employment branding. What's your value proposition? Why should I choose you over the other 25, 50, 100 staffing companies in the market? Why are you going to be the company that represents me to get the best pay, the best opportunities, the fastest advancement? You need to demonstrate to your candidates why you're a reliable, trustworthy staffing company. You need to make sure you're trying to maximize conversions, but conversions aren't just apply for a job. There's lots of other things you could ask a job candidate to do. Maybe they're going to opt in for a job alert. Maybe they're going to send a referral. Maybe they'll download some useful educational content or sign up to watch an on-demand webinar. So you want to think about what are all the different ways we could capture contact information from job seekers so that we can start to nurture a relationship with them if they're not ready to look for a job. And then we have to make sure we bring people back through job alerts, through blogging and email newsletters, through remarketing, which is having ads from your company follow candidates around to encourage them to come back, to promote the jobs to them they were looking at just a day ago or a week ago. We need to bring people back because somebody who comes back is twice as likely to apply to one of your jobs as a first-time visitor. So you want to set a budget for re-engaging talent, not just job advertising to get them there the first time. Which takes us to the second pillar, the job advertising itself. And job advertising today is about having good information. So when we think about job advertising, it's not just saying I have a contract with Indeed and I have to spend $5,000 a month, and so I'll divvy it up evenly per all my branches. That's not a good job advertising strategy. It's based on analytics to have a good strategy. Do you know what's working today? And don't feel bad if you don't know the answers to some of these bullets. Most staffing companies don't have detailed data in all these areas. But do you know how many applies you're getting every month and every quarter? Do you know how many applies each individual job is getting? Do you know where your talent is coming from? What websites are driving the candidates to you? Do you know where the applications are coming from? Because the candidates who apply may not be the same as where all the candidates are coming from. Maybe you're getting great traffic from Indeed, but a smaller percentage of applies from Indeed. Or maybe you're getting great traffic from social media, but they're not converting. You need to know that because you need to know where the people who are applying are coming from. You also need to know your costs. What are you spending for each application you get? And ideally, what are you spending job title or job category by job category, so you can then determine how much should we be spending going forward. And then you want to look at the performance of each individual job. Do I know whether or not the jobs are generating enough views? And if they're generating views, are they getting people to click on them? Are they getting people to apply? If I see that I've got a lot of jobs that are not generating sufficient performance, then I have to look at, okay, can I adjust the pay rate? Can I adjust the way the job post is written? Can I change the job title? You can start playing with things to improve response, but without the data, you're flying blind and have no idea where to change your spending. And the only thing you're going to hear from your various job board reps is, well, just spend more. But we're going to tell you, no, just spend smarter. And the way you do this smarter is thinking about ways to leverage free and paid distribution more effectively to increase your reach. There's a lot of websites that will take your jobs for no charge. When Indeed, back at Staffing World last fall, came along and said, we're going to ban organic job listings, free job posts on Indeed from anybody in the staffing industry and anybody who's a recruiter and anybody who's an RPO company and any other job board. We heard that news and we said, let's go find other people who will take the jobs. And we found partners like Nuvu and Adzuna and Jobcase. These are job boards you may never have heard of that they'll take your jobs for free. And we partnered with them, so anybody who's on our software, the jobs automatically go to these other sites. but get your jobs as many places as you can for no cost or low cost. Then you want to automate to optimize your spending. And we'll talk about how that works a little bit in this whole world of programmatic. What we're trying to do is figure out, are we spending our dollars intelligently based on which jobs need candidates, which jobs are hardest to fill, where we need talent, so that we're not wasting any money by overspending and we're not reducing our revenues by underspending and not getting candidates. A lot of job advertising is testing and testing and retesting. What are we going to test in terms of the job title, the job description, where we post the jobs? And over time, you'll start to learn exactly what works, what job boards work well in each market where you have an office and for each skill discipline you're recruiting for. It's not going to be one source is necessarily best for everything. Then you want to budget appropriately. Once we know what we should be spending for each applicant or each application, we can now set budgets based on how many job orders we have and figure out exactly what we should be spending on our job advertising. And it's not just about locking into an annual contract. It's actually about making sure you have the flexibility to scale your spend up or down to match the number of job orders that you have open. And that's where this whole thing called programmatic job advertising comes in, because this is the software that makes it feasible to do all this management. So you've probably heard the term programmatic. In not so simple words, it means it's job advertising technology that uses data, information about how your jobs are being filled or how other jobs are being filled, analytics, which are rules that can analyze the data to determine the outcomes other people have had or you've had in the past, and then algorithmic decision engines. Those are the rules you're going to set to limit the number of candidates applying to a specific job, or switch your spend based on the results that you're getting, or bump up your spend or bump down your spend based on the results. And the goal is to automate your buying of job posts and job ad placements to get a better return on investment, because programmatic does things that no human could do on their own. The software that you use allows you to better control your cost per click, your cost for each application you get, and the total spend on each job opening to get you a greater return on the total amount of money you're spending on advertising every single month. Now, when you talk to the programmatic vendors, they simplify this definition. They've given us two great responses. Number one is, we're going to try to reduce your cost of an application by about 30%. So if we can reduce the cost of each application by 30%, for the exact same spend, you're going to get dramatically more candidates coming in the door, which is going to mean more filled job orders. The other thing that I love even more is this concept of a stop button. So when your jobs hit certain levels of total spend, number of candidates who've applied, you know you have enough to fill the job, we can hit that stop button and avoid overspending or wasting money. Let's illustrate that a little bit further. So let's first assume you have two very different jobs. The first job, job A, you'd like to get 20 applications because you know your fill rate. If you get 20, you're going to get a good candidate. You're going to make the fill. And you can only afford to spend $10 per application. So basically, I've got a budget of about $200 to get this job filled. Job B, you also need 20 applications because that's your same conversion rate, but this job's worth more to your company and you'd be willing to spend up to $20 or $400 to get the job filled. Well, if you were just throwing money at the job boards, you really can't control this at all. With programmatic, you can set the software to deliver applications at your target cost per application. And Matt Lozar, our director of recruitment marketing, this is one of the things he does is he works with organizations to help figure out how many applications do they need. Very often our clients, when they start with this, have no idea how many applications it takes to get a fill, and they learn that data over time. They also don't know the costs they should be spending per application, or maybe they've got a feel for it, but they don't know what they should be driving towards. We let the data tell the story, and then we work on improving the data. Then there's the second part of programmatic, eliminating the wasted spend, hitting that stop button. So what you're trying to do is avoid having one job using all of your budget and not getting any budget for the jobs that really need it. So here's an example. You've got 4 jobs to fill. You just normally run advertising. Job A was easy to fill, so it gets lots of candidates, and the orange represents more candidates than you need. Here there's 8 candidates, you needed 5. Job B gets 6 candidates, you needed 5. But all those extra candidates, every time they clicked, every time they applied, they were eating up your budget. So all of a sudden, job C is only getting a couple candidates, and job D gets nothing because you overspent on the jobs A and B where you got many more candidates than you needed. And this is really common. We were working with a client when the first month of working with them, we just ran their budget as is. And roughly 2/3 of their jobs received no applications. 1/3 ate up their entire budget for a month. With programmatic, we set a stop line. It says when we have enough applications, shift the spending to other jobs. And when you do that, now we've got budget available to get the candidates you need for job C and jobs D. We've got the line there, and there's no waste. This same company that had 2/3 of their jobs getting no applications, the second month, they were able to get jobs on, if I remember the numbers correctly, 62 out of 66 jobs. I don't know that exact percentage, but it's around 90% of the jobs got candidates by using programmatic to cut off the spending so that the easy to fill jobs didn't burn up the budget. Because the easy to fill jobs are the ones that get clicked on most often on the job sites. One other thing you can do with programmatic is do better post targeting. Some of the vendors have software that will analyze your job descriptions, your job titles, where the job is, results from other people who have advertised similar jobs to help you make better decisions. Before you ever post a job, they can give you a cost per application estimate so you know where to set your rules. While the job is actually actively being advertised, it can make adjustments real time in how much you're bidding and where the jobs are placed. And then after the posting, you get a dashboard back of data that you can use to make way better decisions in the next month. And then every month you're learning more and more to make better decisions about how you spend your money. And one of our team just reminded me, if anybody would like to see examples of this programmatic in more detail, there is a case study on our website. It's under our case studies are all under the Why Haley section at haleymarketing.com. And you can see a case study that actually went through the details of how we drove the results that I quoted, that company that didn't get any applications on 2/3 of their jobs and then did on 90% the next month just by changing to programmatic. So the last thing I want to mention about this is not all of the software, but some of the software that's out there, and there are different vendors with different software packages. They actually can provide software to you that will determine where the best sites to post your jobs based on your descriptions, your titles, your locations, and the results you're looking for. And that brings us to pillar 3, which is all about social recruiting. And social recruiting, I think, is something you're all going to really know a lot about. Probably most of you are doing something in the field of social recruiting today. But a word of warning, social recruiting, it's not just posting jobs on social media. I see companies doing this. I saw one just this week. They were posting on their own, and every single job was going up on Facebook. There was almost no other content. That strategy will do nothing but annoy your followers until the point that nobody wants to follow your company anymore. Good social recruiting is about building relationships with your target audience so they want to work for you. It's a combination of job advertising, employment brand, and just plain being social with your candidates. It's about having a strategy to attract both active and passive job seekers. So what do we mean by that? So with active job seekers, when they're on social media, they're interested in your jobs. They're interested in information about your company. They want to read the online reviews on Facebook or your Google reviews or your Glassdoor reviews. They want referrals from people who have worked with you in the past. And the content you share for these people is going to be specific jobs, testimonials, information about working for your organization, profiles of the jobs, videos, when you have reviews, turning that into content you share, but you're looking for information that would help someone who's actively looking for a job to make a decision. But that's only about 16% of the people on social media. The majority are passive job seekers, and we can't just throw jobs in their face and hope to convince them to work for us. We've got to engage them with content that gives them a reason to become active. Maybe we're addressing their life's work ambitions. Maybe we're addressing their career frustrations. We want to be coming up with ways to engage people on social that makes them think about the fact that you can provide them with a more rewarding work experience, better pay, better benefits, a better company to work for, a happier life, better providing for their kids, buying that puppy they always wanted to have. Whatever it is, you need to think about what motivates your ideal candidates and then share information that they will find interesting and valuable. The social recruiting funnel, and I'm going to click through this kind of quickly, it goes from content seekers to passive job candidates to active job seekers to people who are applying. And as people go through the funnel, at the very top, they're as passive as can be. They're not even thinking about a job. So here I want fun, engaging, useful content, something that as they're scrolling through the feed just captures their eyeballs, gets them to click, gets them to visit your website. Once they're on your website, then I have to create interest in looking for a new or better job. Some of that can be done directly on social media, starting to create that interest, having some fun with posts that talk about the frustrations of work and how there is a better life and maybe the top most interesting jobs in your community. Or I know one of our clients used to do the 10 toughest jobs in their county. You want to do things that people will find it should be somewhat career related, but it's interesting to the reader, not just selling a job opening. Once they switch to being active, and this is going to happen mostly on your website, once you've gotten the passive job seeker to your site, now we have to create interest in your company and interest in these individual jobs. And the apply process is about creating a conversion path. Social media brings people to your website. Your website is designed to optimize conversions to drive people to your jobs, and that drives them to the apply by having a great and easy application process. All right, social recruiting channels. How do you do all this stuff? Well, everybody knows the big three social media. You're going to share jobs where it's appropriate. You're going to share content from your company page. You're going to share content in groups, particularly on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And you're going to want to get everybody on your staff involved in sharing content so that their networks see all of the great ideas your company can present. A small percentage of what people share will be jobs. A large percentage will be content designed to engage your ideal audience. But let's not forget the Instagram and Snapchats of the world, finding ways to engage. This is going to be primarily a younger demographic, but how do we use pictures and video only to get people interested in our organization? How do we make ourselves look like a great place to work? How do we tell stories with series of pictures or videos that make the job seeker think, wow, that staffing company is pretty cool. They're great people. I like how they treat others. I love all the positive reviews they get. Instagram and Snapchat are perfect places to tell those stories. Now Facebook is as well, where you can post stories to that channel. And I believe that's coming soon to LinkedIn. Let's not forget video. Video is the most consumed content on social media, and we have to be thinking about having a YouTube strategy. Meaning we're going to have content videos, maybe about jobs, maybe about your recruiters, maybe about your clients, maybe about your corporate culture. But the videos are building your brand so that people want to work for you and they're drawing people back to your website. There's also a lot of search engine optimization that can be done on YouTube itself, but mostly we want all the videos on YouTube so that they're really easy to then share on social media. Don't forget company review sites, another form of social media, because you need to have a proactive strategy for getting positive reviews, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Industry sites, if you belong to an association. I was very humbled and very pleased that the ASA this morning had a shout out to their top contributors to the ASA Central website, and I was #1 on the list. I don't think I deserve to be #1 on the list, but I was very proud to be there. And that site's a place I'm never selling. And when you're on social media, very often you're not selling, but you're sharing content, you're sharing ideas. And the ideas that I've shared and our team has shared got us to be #1 according to ASA. Well, you can do the exact same thing in your community. It may be a Chamber of Commerce site. It may be an industry-specific site. But where can you go share content, the stuff that's going on your blog, the videos you're producing, where your clients and your candidates are going to discover it and find that it helps them to solve their business challenges. And then let's go old school for a second, email and texting, which we don't think of social media as all, but what's more social than one-to-one communication? Do we have a social strategy for email marketing? Are we engaging our candidates through regular email communication, not just job alerts, but communication that's designed to help them in their careers, that's designed to say, happy service anniversary, which would be a lousy way of saying it, but happy anniversary working for us, happy birthday. Are we doing things with email and text to do relationship building to make our brand stronger with our talent pool? With social, a lot of what you do will be organic reach. As I mentioned, your company followers by sharing on your company page, your staff, your employees' followers by having them share content, using those groups on Facebook and LinkedIn to get your content in front of people who have specific interests. But you're going to have to also integrate paid reach, particularly on Facebook. Paid reach allows you to do more targeted sharing, to go after people who are the right demographic. Now with jobs, you're really limited on how you can target because Facebook got sued, and as a result of that lawsuit, they took away a lot of the targeting for jobs. But when you're sharing content, you can get really specific about targeting people based on location, based on demographic factors, based on their interests, so that they will come back to your website, and then you can engage them with your jobs. Also, when we're promoting jobs, we can look to target certain geographies, so we're making sure we're putting the right jobs in the right place. And the last part about the social recruiting is to think about content variety. Don't just be pictures, don't just be videos, don't just be infographics, don't just be text. Do some of all. Because when you have a variety of content, you are more interesting as a company. You're sharing different things that will engage different audiences. Some people may like to read long blog posts. Other people want to watch videos. Other people may prefer an infographic. So take the information that's educating, that's selling your company, and present it in different formats. And that brings us to the last pillar, which is really about branding your organization. And with employment branding, the most important thing you need to think about is your EVP, your employee or employment value proposition. Essentially, telling the candidate, here's what we do for you. Here's why you should work for us. Do you have an EVP defined? Most staffing and recruiting companies do not. Are you promoting that EVP on your website, in your social recruiting, even in your job posts? Is it incorporated into every post? Are you telling your story in the most compelling, most frequent ways possible so people see you, they understand you, they build brand preference for working with you because they like what they see, they like what you're all about? And then are you maximizing your visibility, not just online, not just through social media, not just through email, but in the real world? That's the ITRW. In the real world, are you doing things so that you're visible in your local community, in any industry that you serve? Are you doing things to support social causes in your community? Are you doing things to be part of professional organizations? Do you attend trade conferences? You want to have as much real world visibility as possible. That's one of your best recruiting tools. Even when you go to a job fair, does your EVP come screaming out from the way your booth is designed and the handouts that you give out? Are you selling people on working for you in every touch point through visibility and the information you share? Are you conveying your culture and the reasons that you're such a cool organization to work for? I know so many staffing companies right now that are doing internal recruiting. And if you're recruiting to fill jobs, why would a recruiter or an account manager want to work for your staffing company and not the competition? If it's just about dollars and cents, you're going to get people who aren't great at serving customers. You need people who believe in the mission of your organization, how you serve your community, and really want to be part of your team. Those are going to be your best employees. Those are going to be your most successful employees. And those are the ones that need to help you tell your story online and through social media, their videos, their posts, their testimonials. Also, I mentioned reputation management. You need to be proactive about getting positive reviews, asking every candidate after a service experience, how did we do? And the people who love you, get a testimonial, ask them to leave an online review. The people who are unhappy, particularly those unplaceable candidates, give them a way to complain in private before they run out to Facebook and give you a 1-star. They go give you a 1-star on Google. They don't tell the world that they were an unplaceable candidate. but they give you that lousy review and they tell the world, oh, this company refused to help me. You need to be on top of that by dominating the negative with positive through that proactive outreach to every candidate you touch. So, reputation management. As you get those star reviews, turn it into content that's on your website, content that's on Facebook and LinkedIn, content that you turn into social graphics that you share to have your candidates tell your story. When you're doing your branding in the real world, think about not just the job fairs I go to and brochures I hand out, but think about, where do my candidates hang out? Are they at the ballpark? Are they in town riding the bus? How can I be more visible with the talent I want to reach by having our company in the right places at the right times with the right message? All right, and that, right on the button at 1 hour. That actually brings us to the end of today's Lunch with Haley webinar. But before we conclude, I've got one more thing I want to offer to everybody today. If you've never downloaded our Smart Recruiting Checklist, you can get a copy for free at haleymarketing.com/smart recruiting. This booklet contains 190 questions that go through the 4 pillars that we discussed today in lots of detail. They're all yes/no questions to help you evaluate how you're doing with your career site, with your job advertising, with your social recruiting, with your employment branding, so you can make improvements. And if there are questions about that, if you want to go even further, our team will work with you to build a recruitment marketing roadmap to help you figure out exactly where to put your time, effort, and resources for your recruiting. And with that said, let me open it up. If there are any questions, I'm happy to stay on the line and answer questions. If we don't have time for them today, shoot us an email. We're always happy to provide advice, help you better understand the 4 pillars of recruitment marketing and how you can develop strategies that don't require you to spend more to fill more of those open job orders. And lastly, one thing I also like to invite you to, we have a big announcement. So last month, we officially kicked off our new video marketing services, 2 very different products to help, one to help you convert blog posts and job posts really cost effectively into branded videos. Another to help you take live video, your salespeople, your recruiters, your clients, your candidates, and with no technical know-how, turn them into amazing branded videos that you can then share on social media, on your company website. And we're going to be doing a product demo on those new services on Tuesday, May 28th. All right, well, I've either overwhelmed everybody with ideas or everyone's already busy back at work, but we've had a question-free afternoon. So I'm just going to say a big thank you from all of us at Haley Marketing Group for being part of today's webinar, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Lunch with Haley event.